Welcome to today's coffee chat. My name is Mary Ellen Wilson. I am your business development manager here at Visiting Angels. As you know, we have 4 different locations, but if you're new to our coffee chats, double welcome. I will let you know that we have an office in Gaithersburg, Silver Spring, Edgewater, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. And we serve older adults in their homes throughout the area, Maryland and DC area. So we're super excited to have you joining us today. So what is the coffee chat all about? Well, I guess it's 11 months now that we have been in our COVID reality. And about a month into our pandemic, we realized, wow, we really missed meeting with our clients to be, and also our industry partners. So like everybody else, we pivoted to a virtual platform and are bringing these virtual coffee chats to you every other week. And this week in particular, I'm really super excited about our speaker and our topic. But before I get there, let me just do a few housekeeping things. We are also streaming live on Facebook on our Facebook channel. So hello, welcome Facebook friends. If you have, and you probably will, have a question, no worries. You can put it in the chat, you can raise your hand, you can put it in the Q&A. Normally what we do is we have a very casual conversation and then take all the questions at the end, but don't wait till the end because you may forget your question. Don't feel like you have to write everything down. We are recording our session and you will receive a link to the recording probably later today or first thing tomorrow. All right, and if you're on Facebook and you have a question, no worries, you can just put it in the chat section and my brains behind the scenes, Tiffany, will be sure to let us know what your question is. All right, so let's jump in. Super excited today to have Susan Wranik, our favorite speaker, author, and speech language pathologist right here in Chevy Chase, Maryland. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely delighted. Absolutely delighted. So Susan is in private practice in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, treating neurogenic communication, memory, and swallowing issues. She facilitates several Parkinson Communication Clubs for the Parkinson Foundation of the National Capital Area, and also hosts Express Yourself, a conversation group for people experiencing difficulty with verbal expression. Today, our topic is communicating with love in the presence of dementia. And I especially am excited about this topic, not only, Susan, because this is the month of love, but because Alzheimer's, dementia, and other cognitive issues are so prevalent in the age group of older Americans, older adults. And so anything that we can do to help navigate them through what they experience on a day-to-day basis is super duper in my book. So Susan, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm going to hand the mic over to you.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here and to help in the area of communication. Communication is a challenge on a good day. It's even more complex when we're dealing with different languages, different cultures, and of course, dementia. Before I go further, I would like to define communication. Communication is an exchange of information. If you stop and think about that for a moment, how many times are we really successful in exchanging that information? And it's the onus is on the sender of the message, the speaker. The success is determined by the listener. Your message is only as good as the person receiving it, if they understand what you intend. So these are all things to bear in mind without getting too complicated and ahead of ourselves. Now, the other issue is the many, many ways in which we communicate. We say so much before we even open our mouths. We
So
judge, we all
true.
judge.
So
It's a
true.
survival skill. It's called
Mhm.
fight or flight. We look at the way somebody's dressed, the expression, the way they look. How many times haven't you looked at somebody and you thought, oh, I don't like that person, don't like that person at all. And then they smile and it's like, oh, I was so wrong. Oh, I was so wrong. What a nice person.
Yeah.
So it's important to bear in mind all the messages that we're sending when we don't even know we're talking. It's how we look.
You
It's
know what, Susan? On that point, I read a statistic once that only 20% of what we communicate is in our words. The other 80% is in our body language, just like you said, our facial expressions, etc.
I don't speak to the percentages. I know that comes out a lot, but I will say this: it's how you look more than what you say. Your words are important. Words count. Never underestimate it. Words count because they condition. But people look at you first to decide whether they even want to listen to you. They say in the speaking world, they say that they first of all they say the person talked about X, it was good or bad, and I'd recommend them again. Those are the three things in speaking. And so it's important the appearance, it's no like and trust. Do people feel that they can relate to you? Do they like you? Do they think they can trust you? That's what drives business to begin with. But when you're dealing with somebody who has, we call it cognitive shift, any type of cognitive shift, because there are many different kinds of dementias, and we'll get into that in just a moment briefly. But I wanted to go back. It's how you look, it's what you say. As I said, words count. It's what you do. And it's not only what you do, it's the speed with which you do it. Not only how you move, but how quickly you move. How often people hustle around, and just that energy. We've all been around people who are so busy, they're almost running into themselves, coming and going. And it doesn't, going faster doesn't do anything except shorten the life of the person that's doing it, because it creates unnecessary stress. So these are all
Oh,
things
you
to
need to
remember.
please repeat that. Please repeat that for all our multitasking friends. Please say it
Okay.
again.
If you're running in a circle, you're always going to have some place to go. And the faster you go doesn't mean you're going to accomplish anything more. You create a lot of nervous energy for those around you. You impede whatever you're doing. You set yourself up for accidents and falls, and any catastrophe happens with speed generally. Think about it. It's not just behind the wheel of a car. You break something, you knock something over. It's because we're moving too quickly. And the only thing that speed does is shorten the life of the person who's rushing around. All right, that's
Bam.
a fact. That's a given.
Drop the mic. There it
Okay.
is.
All right. And what I wanted to say with regard to what you do and the speed with which you do it, remember that when you're dealing with someone with a cognitive shift, behavior is communication. And so we'll get into that in a moment. I want to say, the point I want to make is that dementia is a journey. It's not a destination. And if we're going to make it a pleasant trip, we don't always get to pick the place we want to go. We've all been on trips we didn't want to go on before. But if you're going to enjoy it and get the most out of it in company, you have to learn a little bit about it. And so that's what I hope to do today, to help you with the ways of communicating. And that having been said, there are 4 things to remember when it comes to dealing with cognitive shift, be it whatever phase, whatever stage, whatever type of dementia, be it Alzheimer's, be it a frontal temporal lobe, whatever it is. All dementias have this in common, these 4 elements. There's going to be an issue with memory. There's going to be an issue with language. There's going to be an issue with voluntary movement and with sequence recognition. All right, they all have that in common. In addition, it's important to know that communication is going to affect their vision, their hearing, their the reading and the writing. So when you talk to people, they can't always they have difficulty understanding. It's not it when you have problems with communication, with we talk about aphasia, the complications with language. It affects all four domains, not just the ability to find the words, but the ability to understand what someone else is saying. And people don't realize this often enough. Sometimes they may become impatient when people can't find the words, but remember that while they're struggling to express themselves verbally, they're also struggling to understand what you're saying. They're struggling with the comprehension. All right. And they'll have difficulty with reading, and they'll have difficulty with writing as well. So those are all things to remember and to bear that in mind when you're attempting to communicate. Never ever forget the many ways in which you can send messages. Even with masking, we've learned how to gesture. We've learned how to send kisses. Look at the emojis. Look at the conversations we can have with emojis. I have the privilege of working with adults who are differently abled, intellectually and developmentally. Many of them are nonverbal. They don't have at least 10 words to manipulate their inventory. But these people can negotiate. They can tell you what they want just from body positioning and changing, drawing near, pulling back, with vocalizations, making noise. There are lots of ways to let people know what you want, what you don't want, what you like, and what you don't like. But what I'm most concerned about is the way people talk to family members, especially older family members who are having a memory shift. I remember we had a woman who had a stroke. This was in a community where I worked. She had a stroke. She was nonverbal at this point. She was paralyzed in a wheelchair. Lovely lady. She knew how to smile. She had good eye contact. And her daughters would come rushing in all the time with bags from the latest department stores and designer shops. And they'd want to redo the room, and just a flurry of energy, not necessarily good energy. They would be so excited, and they'd be prattling a mile a minute, because that's what we do in Western culture. We don't do well with silence. We don't do well with just being. We have to fill the airwaves. So they would be coming in and saying they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And they're going here, and they were in New York last weekend. And this poor lady would sit there and nod, and she would smile. And it just broke my heart. And then with that, they were gone in a flash. They dropped all the designer goods, redecorated the room, kissed her goodbye, and they were gone in a flash. And I think about the importance of communication and communion. This is a term that was coined by Martin Buber, a rabbinical philosopher many years ago, I think 60s, 70s, when he wrote this book. And he talked about the importance of communion. Communion is something you can only achieve with somebody that you know really well. It can be your spouse, parent and child, a partner, somebody with whom you can be one with without having to fill the airwaves. You don't have that compunction, that feeling that you have to be saying something. And this is by far, especially in this season of love, this is one of the best ways to communicate with someone. You sit with them, first of all, on their eye level. If somebody's in a wheelchair seated, and most of the people that have shift, you're not going to be standing there and having a conversation. They're going to be seated. If they're in a wheelchair, their field of vision is 31 inches from the floor. So you want to get on their level. That's basic civility. You talk to the person at the same level. They're standing, you stand. They're sitting, you sit. And you make eye contact. All right? And then you offer your hand. You don't necessarily take the hand, especially if that person doesn't know. When people start swatting to get people away, you're in their peripheral frame of vision. They don't always have a real good peripheral feel, but they know if there's a shadow, so they're going to swing. They're not combative. It's human nature. It's something that shouldn't be there, and they try to move it. So you get into their field of vision, you take their hand, offer it, let them know, introduce yourself, make sure you have that eye contact, smile. It's the window to the soul. Let them know who you are, all right? And keep the details to a minimum. I've watched as family members, and I wish I could just give communication lessons for families. It's a foreign language in itself on how to talk to family members. They want so much to commune with the family member, and they'll come in with every name of every child, every grandchild, and every soccer score, and everything that they've done. And you can see the person's just nodding, and it's not computing, but they're there and they're smiling. And you don't even have to do that. Just to be one with and say hi. I ask people, I posed this question before, and I'll pose it to the audience. If you knew you had 5 seconds to talk to somebody you loved before they left you, what would you say to them? Think about that.
Wow.
I've been there.
Deep. Yeah.
It's very simple. What's the first one you'd say?
I love you.
Yeah. And the second thing you'd say is,
don't leave me. No.
How about thank you? Thank you for everything you've ever done for me. Will you ever forgive me for all the stupid things I've ever done in my life? Why wait? Those are conversations that you can have with people. Take cream in. Cream is wonderful. You can give a hand massage. You don't have to have a conversation. Put music on in the background. And for those who are running around like crazies, even road warriors, even though we're not running around like we used to, as much as we used to, this is a real good opportunity for you to chill and be kind to yourself as well. You get the hand massage as well. And you have an opportunity to merge, to become one with, and say all the things that you always want to say, but you don't always. You can reminisce about something. Do you remember this time or that time? And share a moment. You might have a picture. You don't have to have tons of pictures, but it can be very, very simple. I see so often, I'm thinking about some of the other things people do. How about I know people are going to have questions on content and non-content. This is important to understand. People are receiving repetitive phone calls. Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? Remember that we seek companionship. We want that give and take of conversation. So we use the words we have. That's what they're doing. What time is it? What time is it? How are you? Where are you? People who tell me that their family members are calling constantly, I tell them, do you have their voice on tape? Is it recorded? And they look at me as though I've lost my mind. And then I go back to the 4 challenges that you're going to be dealing with. Language, movement, and sequencing. The time will come when they won't remember how to call, how to use the telephone anymore. And it's probably not too far down the road. So if you know it's them and you don't want to speak, and it frustrates you and it makes you, it unnerves you, don't answer the phone. They'll have something to do. They'll keep calling. If you've got caller ID, you'll know that. But if you do answer the phone, just answer the question as if it's the first time you've heard it, because for them it is. They're not really seeking information in many instances. They don't care what time it is. They don't really want to know what you have to do or what you're doing or where you've been. They just want to have that give and take. So whatever you say would be fine. Just be kind. Okay? And it's very, very hard to remember when you're rushing around and you have so many things to do. You have children, you have people to feed, things to do, work unresolved, a house to maintain. So if you need that time, don't answer. But if you answer, be kind and be sure you have the voice recorded. Remember that people with a cognitive shift will always have an opinion. If you pick up a child, 18 months old, or let's say even younger, how about 10 months old? 10 months old, they don't have language then, right? And maybe a neighbor or a family member comes over and they want to take that child, and that child doesn't want to be taken by the other person. They don't have language, but they have an opinion. They're going to let you know they don't want to go.
They will let you know.
And they will scream and they will holler, okay? Is that any less communication?
No.
I mean, parents know what cries are. Absolutely. They know what that is. And so when people have a cognitive shift, they will always have an opinion. What they will not have is the ability to weigh benefit and risk. So thou shalt not reason. When you're dealing with somebody with cognitive shift, remember that that person is always right, not really, but there's no point in reasoning because it's not going to matter. And that behavior is communication. So those are the things to bear in mind. And actually, communication doesn't have to be as painful as it sometimes is for people. Are people finding that helpful? Do we have any questions to this point? Anybody want to know anything?
No questions yet. Everyone, you feel free to type in your questions as they come up. Oh, wait, we do have a raised hand. And now I have to figure out how to
go into the chat.
Yeah. And allowed to talk. Eileen.
I live in Maryland and my brother lives in North Carolina. And I just saw his report yesterday because I'm his medical power of attorney. And he attempted suicide during recovery. He did survive, but he had a stroke.
Oh dear.
And he lives by himself in North Carolina, very stubborn. He also has very major sleep apnea, never remembers to put his mask on. I feel like when I call, his kids have nothing to do with him. He has one friend. His behavior is so childlike. And what you said about reasoning, I see now that all the reasoning and explaining I've been trying to do about why you should wear your mask and why you should stay in. And I just don't know what to do because he was just diagnosed with dementia. And he's all the way out there in North Carolina, and I'm just trying to do all the work from Maryland, but I worry about him. He's a veteran. He did play taps at funerals. He was a racquetball pro. He worked on airplanes. It's, all kinds of interests. All he does now is spaces out in front of a TV set. And they tried to put him in physical therapy, but he just wouldn't do the work, so they released him. So I don't know what to do.
Okay, the answer is that there's probably not much you yourself can do at a distance. And first thing you have to do is forgive yourself, okay? Because you can't live another person's life. I would recommend that you contact an ALCA, ALCA. Have you heard about ALCAs?
No.
It's called the Aging Life Care Association. These are all certified professionals. Some of them are nurses, social workers. They're all certified. It's a national organization, and they might be able to go in and it's a fee for service. They might be able to go in and meet with him in the area and at least make some recommendations. I don't know what you can do you can't physically remove someone, but from their home, even if it would be in their best interest. But this would be a way to start, to get somebody in there. And if he's a veteran, they would know how to contact the appropriate services. But you did not come into this world prepared to be a caregiver and an expert. So I would turn to someone. Don't be afraid to ask questions. It doesn't make you any less of a sister or any less loving because you haven't got all the answers.
Yeah, and we're very close. And I like what you said because he does call a lot.
Good. So keep in touch with him. Keep in touch with him, but try to send somebody in. There are services. I know we have a service here without advertising for anyone. There's one that offers a cleaning service. They don't call it as such, but what they do is they get that person in to be a skilled professional to go in to be able to help straighten up the house a little bit, to keep an eye on things and to monitor, and little by little by little, they can provide more support once there's an acceptance, once that person is appreciated. I have another friend who does cooking, and she's managed to, she's a professional chef to order, and she'll go into the home, and one of the men who sent everyone away because he was very difficult to deal with. He clutched this metal box. He had been a widower for 20 years. He clutched this metal box and finally pushed it across the table to her and said, all I want to do is eat anything, one thing in that box. It was her collection of recipes. And they became the best of friends. So there are all kinds of ways to get in there, but you need to keep your health and your sanity. Contact an ALCA, go online. If not, call me. I'll try to put you in touch with somebody through here, through Washington to connect you with somebody in North Carolina. But that would be the first way to go. And in the interim, keep the lines of communication open. And remember that you can ask him questions like I did with my aunt when I was taking care of her. I didn't say, it's time for you to move. And I said, you lonesome? You've got such a brilliant mind. It's a pity you don't want to share it with anybody. And so the choice was hers. It's always important to give people choice, okay, and honor their dignity and their preferences, what they like. You don't tell them what to do.
Oh, he's tired of me.
Why? Because you keep telling him what to do?
Yes.
Tell him how wonderful he is. Tell him all the good points he has and what a pity it is that he can't share it with other people and how wonderful it would be. Don't tell him to go. I mean, think about children, think about spouses, think about how far you don't get when you tell people what to do. It's a suggestion. It's like,
and he has a friend that he calls his girlfriend, but she doesn't feel the same way. And she bathes him and he goes over for dinner once or twice a week and stays on weekends. But he's really a child now. And I see her backing away.
and
And
understandably, it's a functional delusion for him, and he's fortunate to have her, but how much longer can she do this? So you might need to find someone else that he can be quote unquote friends with. He's regressing. That's another point I wanted to make. When you're dealing with dementia, the first thing on is the last thing off, okay? So your mind is unpeeling like an onion, all right? And the past becomes the present, because present and new experiences can't be grasped and filed away anymore. The past becomes the present.
you know, I put him. Whoa. Okay.
Don't go away, Eileen. I have some other points I want to share with everybody, and then we'll go back and revisit, because some of the things that I have to complete this chat might be of benefit to you, and then we'll go back and try to address whatever we can as deeply as we can. Okay.
Terrific.
How does that sound? Is that agreeable to you, Eileen?
Oh, I think she's muted now.
Okay, she's muted now. Okay.
Yeah.
As I said before, less is more. When you give people, you want to give people choice, but if there's confusion, you never want to give them more than two things. All right.
Okay.
Because confusion breeds anxiety and it breeds agitation. And people, they can be strike out verbally. They can become upset when they're overwhelmed. We don't want to overwhelm anybody, least of all ourselves. Okay. So remember that less is more. And I'll address this specifically. I'll give you some examples in the lifesaver list that I'm going to share with you now. Mary Ellen has a copy. She can make this copy available to all of you. I deliberately did not put this up on slides because I wanted to have a conversation. Otherwise, we're looking at slides and we're going back and forth, and I don't know how much we're really absorbing the moment. I think I miss conversation. You know what I miss? I miss picking up a phone. Have you ever had anybody pick up a phone and call you and say, this is so much easier than the emails back and forth?
All the time.
So it's nice to have that contact with people. So this lifesaver list is something I compiled. I wish I had this list when I was caring for my aunt. I speak to you today as a clinical professional, but I've also been a caregiver. And as a linguist, to my fellow colleagues who might be on the call, these are the words that I use. It's important to change the words that we use to make it more palatable. I know people who have children with on the spectrum, they say, I had one lady who had 3 children, and they all had different aspects of the spectrum. And she said every time she said something, she would have to phrase it 3 different ways
Wow.
to make sure that she met the individual on their appropriate level. But words do count. It's important to provide choice. Nobody likes to be forced into anything. So these are my top 10 on my lifesaver list, which I share with you now. The first one is to smile. That's the universal language, smile. It means that you're a friend, you're not a foe, you're not there to do anything, you're not there to force anybody into a situation. I've had people in moments of conviction take the person's hand, chin, and try to get them focused and say, "Are you listening to me? Are you listening to me?" And that's terrifying. No, they aren't. And they say, even in terms of punishing children, they say a spanking one time is for the child. Anything after that is your issue.
Mm.
Okay. And so it's important to get the person to circle back in and find a way to do it in a very civil way. And back in the 60s, we had neuro-linguistic programming, and that was based on the concept that if the person if the interviewer would lean in, the interviewee would lean in.
Mm-hmm.
With dementia care, we do the direct opposite. It's called validation. Okay. Whatever mood they're in, you mirror it so that they know that you're there to align. If they look upset, you look upset. We do this with children all the time. You've seen children that fall,
yeah,
and they don't know. And this is not to infantilize. These are adults. We don't want to infantilize an adult.
Right.
But it's so often when a child falls and they'll look at you and they're just so stunned. They don't know whether to cry or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if you make a face, then they'll laugh because they've forgotten that. Maybe they were scared and they thought they should have cried. Sometimes you can do this with adults too by validating. If they're sitting there and they're looking angry, you can sit beside them and look angry too and say, "Are you angry too? Are you angry? Can I be angry with you?" And say, "Now can we try?" And you move together in tandem. It's kind of like a game, and it's a skill set that has to be developed, but it can be done. But start with the smile. The smile is the most important. Remember to be at eye level, and remember to call them by name. And I think one of the hardest things for family members, especially children, is for the family member not to remember the child's name. Mm-hmm. I know they don't like, CMS doesn't like people wearing name tags. I think it's really great to have a name tag. I love name tags, a big name tag. And you could even have Mary, your daughter. That's my thought. But it doesn't really matter. The important thing is, are they happy? It's all about quality of life. There's only one thing that matters in this communication event. There's only one thing that you're trying to convey, and that's love and comfort. It's quality of life. So if they're smiling, you don't really need anything more than that. That's what you need to know. And so you meet them at eye level, you call them by name, you offer information. Never ever use the word, "Do you remember?" Because sometimes they know that they don't know, and it can be very disconcerting for them. You never know what's going to be processed, what's going to be picked up. So you want to speak as if everything is understood, but you want it to be as simple as possible so that it can be. Try showing people how to do things instead of telling people. The line I hear, and I'm sure you've all heard this so much, "Where are we going? We're going to the doctor." You didn't tell me you were going to that. "I told you last week we have a medical appointment. We're going to see so-and-so." "I don't remember." "I told you." And this ensues. Tell me that your listeners have never been involved or heard one of those conversations. Am I right?
You are so right.
It's called loss of patience, and you know what? We all have it. It happens. And the important thing is to remember, as I said before, that when you lose your patience, stress is a conflict between what you want to do and the means available to do it. So you either need to dial it back or slow down. But it's the onus is on you to control that stress, because it's only going to make you feel worse, and it's bad for your health. So when you're dealing, for example, if you're going to take somebody someplace, they might not remember and they might keep asking. The visual content, sometimes people can remember things that you show them. This is true even when if you're studying a language or something, you want to see that word, you want to see it written. So now you're going to tell me you wish I had slides here. But for example, if you're taking somebody to the doctor, give them a card, give them the business card. And if it's an eye doctor, draw glasses on it and they can hold it. They may keep asking you, where are we going? Where are we going? And you can redirect, say, look at your card, look at your card. What's that picture? Glasses. Yeah, we're going to go check on your eyes and your glasses, or draw eyes, or simple pictures. There are all kinds of fun things that you can do to make it an adventure. Remember, it's a journey. It's not a destination. And in the course of time, each day, each moment can be a different journey. So you show rather than just tell, or you work with them with the movement if you want them to do something. All right. Use very, very simple sentences. Less is more. You don't say, well, first we're going to go here, and after that, we're going to go there. And then we're going to, first we're going to go to the doctor. And when we're done with that, then we're going to stop for lunch. And if we have time, we'll run by X. Way too quickly, way too much information, and way too many contingent phrases. We are going to the doctor. We're going to the doctor. And then that's it. That's all. And then if they say, and eat, and you say, we're going to lunch. We're going to lunch. You just keep everything simple so that they don't have to chain everything. And the onus isn't on them to chain everything. You focus on feelings, not on facts. Remember, I said the most important thing is a smile. And I can't stress the importance of communion over communication. Think of the many ways you can be with a family member. Stuffed animals, something soft, something tactile, anything they enjoy. Think about that. Remember, when you plan to see somebody, plan your visit and then double the time. Double the time that you've allocated. And if you can't make it, if you really can't make it because you have preempting circumstances, don't worry about it. They won't know the difference. Yes, it's okay to tell a white lie. Okay? It's okay to lie. You don't have to be so factual or find a way to circumvent the issue. Change. You validate and then you redirect. And if somebody's concerned about something, for example, they're seeing things, they're hearing things, that can all be reality for them. Just because it's not your reality, it can be their reality. That's hallucination and illusion, delusion, all these things. Okay? The first thing you do is validate their concern. You don't say, oh, I see them too. There are bugs on that wall. There are bugs on that wall. You don't say, oh yeah, I see them too. You say, which wall, where? Please show me where there are no bugs. Let's go to a place where it's safe. You don't like those bugs. No, I don't like those bugs. Good, you build that bond. Let's go where there are no bugs, okay? Now this is for the advanced level, but these things can be applied at all levels. Remember, you have one goal. We all have one goal. It's quality of life. We want to be happy. We really want to be calm, though most of us don't do a very good job of it, okay? There's no point in being stressed. So we try to be the best that we can be together when we're dealing with this. And
oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
My final point number 10 is don't engage the devil. Has everybody seen The Exorcist?
Yes.
Seen The Exorcist? Well, there's a point where the devil, when the Damien Karras is being trained by the exorcist, that he has to focus, because the devil will take many forms to reach you. And at one point, the devil assumes, I'm not getting into proselytizing here, I'm just telling you about the film. The devil in the film assumes the figure of Damien Karras' mother. And she's crying out to him. She's in a nursing gown on a gurney saying, Demi, why did you leave me? Guilt tripping him. Nothing is going to mess up your focus and attention like guilt. Good old guilt, right? Yeah. And he, remember, the devil is dementia. Dementia is the devil. Don't dialogue with the devil. And people can say really cruel things. I've been there. I've had some very hurtful things that my aunt said to me. But I realized that she didn't realize that she was saying it at the time. It was the dementia that was saying it because she had forgotten. Not all people become angry and nasty. That was on CBS the other day. They were talking about people being angry with Tony Bennett, and they were saying that when people get Alzheimer's disease, they get nasty. Not everybody.
That's not true. Yeah.
Not everybody.
Not everyone.
Yeah, one size does not fit all, and that's just that's a horrific thing to say and to do it. I'm so concerned about this misinformation. The important thing to remember is to be kind, and that it takes a little bit more time when you're dealing with somebody who's going to have memory issues. They're going to have physical issues. I'll give you an example. My aunt got locked into the stall of a restroom, and I was trying to explain to her how to get out. Now, first of all, she's panicking and agitated, right? At this point, she couldn't remember how to get out, obviously, because she couldn't remember the sequence. That's the last part I told you about. Where is it? I don't know if she even had the physical agility to manipulate the latch. Okay. And she obviously wasn't understanding what I was telling her, be it because she couldn't process, because she was too upset. I don't know what the issue was, but all those things can come crashing down on you, and understand what's happening. And when this happens, you don't punish, you learn how to do it better the next time.
That's beautiful. So many nuggets out of this. I think the overall theme, though, of dementia is a journey, not a destination. I think is really just it's just a profound statement that if we think about. I do have a question about, we are in a busy world, and especially for family caregivers who may be, a caregiver for a parent. They're in that sandwich generation. So they have children, they have the parent, they're always rushing around. So can you suggest some strategies for slowing down when you're dealing with a loved one with dementia? Are there strategies that you can do to remind yourself to take a breath, slow down, be calmer with him or her?
Well, first of all, plan in advance. And it doesn't have to be a check the box. You don't have to go every day. You don't have to go every Monday. You don't have to do anything every day. And then there might be the possibility with COVID that you're dealing with the person in the home, so you're together all the time. Step outside, step away for just a moment. You might try to get some help if you have one of your religious organizations or a community organization, or if you can just step away for a moment or find something to keep that person busy, or when that person is busy or sleeping, because they might not be going all the time. That's when you have to take care of yourself.
Right.
And you have to make it a point, even if you just go into the bathroom, sit down and close the door and just sit there and reflect for a few minutes, do a breathing exercise, focus on everything that you're grateful for. Focus on the here and now. Make yourself a list of, when that happens, sit down in a quiet spot and concentrate on 3 things for which you're grateful. And try to stay focused on that.
That is such a wonderful strategy when you are fearful of something as well, to think about 3 things that you're grateful for, because fear and gratitude cannot live in the same place at the same time. So I do love that. And it sounds like, just if we were to wrap it all up, and then we'll go to questions, of course, is it sounds like there's 3 big things. If you can remember: stillness, silence, and touch. It almost seems like that whole communion, being in communion and just being able to be still and silent, and yet communicate through touch in some of the ways that you suggested. Sounds like it could go a long way to communicating.
And it's calming. You asked how a person could calm. Why don't you do a hand massage too?
Yeah, I loved when you said that.
Try the hand massage, because that gives you both a moment to relax, and it's reciprocal, and you develop the eye contact. You can make faces at each other, put a little music on in the background. It's a wonderful diversionary tactic for those who are in the home all the time, if they can do this. The some of the streaming, the Comcast, and I would assume some of the other cable networks provide music channels.
Yes.
I put the music on, and the wonderful thing is that you can pick the genre, and then they give you little snippets, little capsules of what the subject matter is, who wrote it, and you try to name that tune if the person's able, and sometimes it triggers memories and a conversation. There are all kinds of ways to avail oneself of things that don't have to cost money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So who has questions? And let me see in the chat room. I am not seeing questions in the chat room. You can either raise your hand, you can put something in the Q&A, whatever makes you the most comfortable. One question, one other comment that I wanted to bring up. You mentioned peripheral vision, and I think that we really should emphasize that. One thing that we do know, as a dementia person suffering from living with dementia goes through the stages, one of the things that they do lose is a peripheral vision. And I'm not sure everyone realizes that. So when you were talking about they may see a shadow, they truly cannot see. And that is a big deal. And so if you're coming up from behind them, it startles them because they don't see you until you are practically on top of them. So I just wanted to make mention of that, kind of highlight that a little bit.
It's important to be in front of the person and at eye level when you speak with them, to let them know that you're there. Wait, we all tend to, yell from the other end of the house. The other issue is that the vitreous fluids in the eyes dry, and so everything takes on a yellow cast. So it's important to remember that, to set, if people aren't eating, to set a pretty table and to be together. People want to be together. I would assume they like to dine together. The COVID has posed all kinds of challenges, but there are ways to make it fun. But the one thing we want more than anything else, the universal language, is the smile, and it's all about quality of life. If the person is smiling, that's all that matters.
So it looks like we do have a question from Eileen. I think you're unmuted. Go ahead.
One more thing. His friend that lives there put a camera so that she can see what he's doing. Not in all rooms, just in the living room. He sits and just stares at the TV. Even when he knows he's supposed to be somewhere or whatever, he just sits and stares at the TV and just doesn't stop.
Well, he doesn't know where he's supposed to be. That's the whole point. He doesn't, it's your brother, but that's not the mind of the brother that you knew. Oh, he's got a lot of challenges there. And as I said, I would try to get someone in, get an ALCA in there to assess, and they can make some on-site recommendations. He's most fortunate to have this woman, and it's a wonderful thing that she put the camera in, because at least that enables her to see. But so many of the people, and this is another thing I'm looking for myself. Most of us probably don't have the safety bracelet. I've fallen and I can't get up because it's stigmatizing. Most of us don't want to wear a giant pendant around our necks, and we don't want to wear a refrigerator on our wrist. They do have some new devices out there. I don't particularly want to wear the Apple Watch, and that can be very complicated for some people anyway. But it's important to have these fall devices as well. That would be my biggest concern with regard to your brother. He's alone in the house. If he were to fall, he's probably dehydrated. Most of us are probably dehydrated. If he were to fall, how long would it be before someone would get to him?
I know.
And that's a huge issue. So there are a lot of issues involved here, and you're going to need help. You can't do this alone.
No. You know, it's interesting with Visiting Angels. We just started an enhancement to our in-home care, which is Visiting Angels Connected Care, for just this reason. So we have sensor monitors around the home so that when the caregiver is not there, maybe they're there for 4 hours a day, but what about the other 20 hours a day? We have a platform that keeps people safe, that monitors what's going on through sensors, not cameras, for just this issue, so that, God forbid, they were to fall, we know about it immediately and can take appropriate action.
What,
So, Eileen, you might even want to look. We're not in North Carolina, but I am sure there is a Visiting Angels close to him. I don't know. Maybe that is another avenue to pursue as well. But definitely start with ACLA. ACLA.
Now, one more thing. He is stubborn. He needs glasses, but won't wear them. He has a hearing aid, but won't wear it. He won't use any devices to keep him from falling. He's got a walker. He's got all that stuff. He won't use it. He doesn't like getting older, which may be why he did the suicide attempt, is that at the time he thought his one friend was going to go away. It was enough to push him over the edge. But he won't use anything that will help him. So it's very difficult to say, can you put your hearing aid on so you can hear? Why don't you put your glasses on so you can read this number? You know, and I'm doing this through the phone. He doesn't know that I can see him. And he won't know, but he lies to me when he says, I've got him on or I'm doing this. He will lie to me and say that he's doing something, but I can see, because I have permission on the camera, that he's not.
you're not going to get him to do anything because you ask him to or you direct him to. You've got to create the want. He's going to have to want. He doesn't have a reason right now. He doesn't have, and I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm sure they would have some good input on this as well. That would be more their wheelhouse. But he has to find a reason to want to live. You also said he's a veteran. You don't know what he's lived through, what experiences he has. You don't, he needs to be with his own kind, with somebody who understands and somebody who can create the want. You have to create the want for somebody. You can't make them do it. When you're dealing with somebody, I'll give you a quick example. You're in rehab, okay? You're dealing with somebody who's, advanced age. They live in a 3-family home. Many people have lived in their homes 30, 40 years. This person falls and has a pelvic fracture, okay? You can't fix a pelvic fracture. You have to wait for it to heal. And it's a painful and a time-consuming process. Now, this person has one son in Washington State and a daughter in Florida and lives in Washington, D.C. in this famous 3-story home. They pretty much give up. They just don't even want to care about rehab. And you have to get in there and find a way to encourage them to want, to believe. But you can only do that when you're with them. And it takes a lot. You have to get to know that person and meet that person on their level. That's what they call person-centered care, which is a driving force. But again, you can't do this alone. You're going to have to get a professional in there to work it from that angle, Eileen. And these people can monitor, they can guide, and hopefully, we can get the Veterans Administration to step up and serve him as he served us.
I was
They
thinking.
provided him with all that they will, and somebody comes in for like an hour a couple times a week to straighten the house. But really, the veterans don't provide as much. They've got him going to a counselor, but he just tells them he only does calls because he can't figure out Zoom.
Yeah, he needs to bond. He needs a reason. They're checking the box. And
I know.
not just enough to be doing this. He has to be with somebody that he can bond with. And that's going to take a search. It's not easy. But the right person is out there that will make him want to get up in the morning, that will make him want to go forward. It's just going to be a challenge to find that person, but don't give up. But you're going to have to enlist the help of others.
Okay, we're coming up on the noon hour, and we do have another question. And the question is, how should you address a patient/client who refers to the daughter or sister as my mother all the time? So the daughter or sister they think is the mom, the mother.
You leave it alone. Remember, they're right.
Yeah.
They're right. They're always right. Okay, it doesn't really matter. This goes back to what I said, first on, last off, and the past becomes the present. You'll have spouses that refer to another spouse as my mommy or my daddy, and it can be very painful to the spouse. It doesn't really matter. Again, are they smiling? This is why they're doing it. Okay, they remember that person, and you don't correct them. You just, smile, and you can call the person by the correct name, the other person, but you don't correct someone with dementia.
Okay. All right, last chance. Any final questions? Susan, I just have to thank you so much. This has been really enlightening, and I hope that our guests agree and feel the same way. I'm sure that they do. Susan, where can people find you should they need you?
I am all over the internet. I practice. I'm licensed to practice in the DMV. My name is Susan I. Wranik, W-R-A-N-I-K. My firm is Speak Skill. One L. Speak Skill. Not one skill, not skill. Speak Skill. And if you Google that, you'll find me. And my number, you can contact me directly through the internet that way. So just remember that word.
And when we send out the recording, we will, of course, have Susan's contact information as well for you. If you feel like you want to talk to Visiting Angels about how we may be able to help you in your current situation, I am always happy to have a chat. So with that, any last final thoughts before we sign off?
From my part, I would just like to remind everybody to smile. It is the universal language. Happy Valentine's Day.
It is indeed. Thank you so very much, Susan. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. We will be back in 2 weeks. We're going to turn the corner a little bit from our normal dementia and Alzheimer's topics to a topic that is important for everyone, and it is how to create and the importance of creating an advanced medical directive right online, and it's free. So you're going to want to join us on the 24th at 11. All righty. Thank you so much, everyone. Go have a great day. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.